Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup, and it's a Valentine's special, although there's no love really for Michael Masi, because we're going to talk about that. It's still kicking off, and it's really quite fascinating, this whole F1 Michael Masi, McLaren, Red Bull and Mercedes as well. But there's other stuff to look at in there. Not an action pack, but there seems to be quite a lot on the agenda this week to go through from last weekend. But we've got to kick off because the debate with Michael Masi is still ongoing. Yeah. Lewis fans are going crazy. Max fans are telling all the Lewis fans, get over it, it's done. But there's a new bit of audio that was actually released some time ago, but it only really came into the mainstream this week. And it's quite fascinating, really, because it is so conclusive that there was an error made. I think everybody, even Max fans, realize now an error was made, but it's how we deal with it ongoing from here.
Was the social media kicked off big time because there's new audio which I hadn't heard appeared, and so everyone was raging about it because there's this guy Jonathan Wheatley, which I don't think anybody heard, and then when I complained I hadn't heard this is new, and it has this bloody cover up by Sky or by all the insiders because Karun Chandok said, yes, you did hear it, Tiff. And I thought, well, no. So I then said, can you send me the evidence? Because obviously you go to Sky and replay that particular element. And then he deleted his tweet. I mean, it all goes more and more into the secrecy because he probably realised, apparently it was released. It was released on FOM, on the Formula One website, about 3 or 4 days after the Grand Prix. And in fact, more interesting, after Mercedes withdrew their protests. Because it was really more damning evidence for Masi. What we'd heard from from Christian Horner, about we only want one lap and that was bad enough. But this really revealed the amount of coaching Red Bull were doing to poor old Masi. I know, Toto was doing the same for Mercedes. He said, we don't want a safety car, we don't want a... But that's a natural reaction. They were really hoping for a virtual safety car, which doesn't lose their lead and stuff. But it just came out on Twitter. And the fact that it's such an outrage, a lot of people on Twitter, I'll forget it, Tiff, move on, Well, we can't move on until the 2021 season has been concluded. And everybody's saying, and I'm saying, well, everyone seems to like Mr. Michael Masi. He seems very popular amongst the Sky commentators and the drivers who have dinner with him all year, and he's obviously a likable bloke, and they're always trying to give him a cuddle and say it was only one mistake, but it was lots of mistakes. And even if he is protected, they all say you've got to change the system. We understand that, we mustn't let the teams attack Masi directly, or Jonathan Wheatley attack during the races. We understand that, but whatever, Masi was the one that cracked under pressure. And how could he be any more controversial decisions this season, with the Mercedes and Red Bull clash? What, Massi's making the decision again? Well, he brought the sport into disrepute, and he's got to be pushed sideways if they want to give another job. But I don't think for most fans, they couldn't stomach him coming out. I mean, because it's extra evidence, with his Wheatley saying, just let them buy and then we can have a race,
A motor race, and he quoted it virtually word for word. Then he re-quoted that on the radio.
Back to Toto. Masi then told Toto, we're going to have a race. We're going to have what Wheatley
for Michael Masi. I do. But the problem is all these people now, the Christian Horners and Toto Wolffs of these world, they're all celebrities now. Back in the day, you didn't even know who the team principals were half the time. They're all celebrities.
Surely Michael had the option of turning that radio off. I mean, he's not obliged to reply to this pressure, is he? He could have just turned it off and said, I've got to sort it. Because actually when I think it was Toto first on, maybe it was Christian first started pressurising him. He says, I've got a job to do here. I've got to sort out a safety car. And he should have just switched off that communication. I mean, he had surely the ability.
If we're all human, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but he made a mistake that cost Mercedes, cost Lewis Hamilton his 8th world title. Yeah. So it's a major mistake. so sadly for Michael Masi, and I do genuinely feel very sorry for the guy because he's clearly a nice guy and very talented at what he does. But he made a monumental mistake, and he has to probably do the right thing himself and step aside or step down.
Yeah, I don't want the job. Give me a start. I think they talk about a safety commission. There are other jobs available. There must be so many jobs in the FIA. They take 3 months to come up with a committee to decide things. But no, it's a shame it's happened. I mean, Sky got Martin back. Did you see the Martin interview that was tweeted as a sort of response to this new information?
They're really sticking behind him. The whole
I know,
Sky
but Martin put on his big serious now, having told us before, you don't understand little people, it's a big job and nobody else could do that job. And then he went on and on about letting lapped cars catch the back of the pack. In fact, everyone knows that. That wasn't the big deal at all. But he almost seemed to concentrate on that. Well, of course, at Spa, if it's wet, there isn't time for all the cars to go round. You might have to restart before. Yes, we all know that, Martin. But Martin didn't discuss the bit about, if you let them by, we then have a motor race. That was the damning sort of evidence. But then Martin did then, right at the end, say, my only thought is that it had to go one more lap. And whoa. You never said that on the race day. And all of a sudden now, even Martin's admitted that the rule was mishandled and the result was ruined. And
I don't know anybody that disagrees with that. Even Max fan, even a die-hard Max fan, everybody realises that Michael Masi made a huge error.
The results stand, that's all right. I know there's some people wanting to change the results. I don't think they'll ever change. But I mean, forever, in my mind, there's going to be little brackets, Lewis Hamilton World Championships 7 in brackets 8, Max Verstappen 1 in brackets 0. It's going to be there. The scar will be there forever.
But what I don't like is I don't like this. It's either or, because it's not either or. Max probably deserved to win the championship overall. He was better driver overall in the whole season. However, that's not what it's about. I mean, it's not over until the fat lady sings. And Lewis would have won Abu Dhabi. There's no question Lewis would have won Abu Dhabi.
He drove a great race.
Yeah, so absolutely. And lots of Lewis fans remind the Max fans about Saudi Arabia. Don't forget Saudi Arabia. Max gave him a great job. There was all that controversy as well.
I try to avoid going back to all the other things.
Forget all that. Forget that, because then you've got Silverstone, you've got the major incidents.
Exactly.
Forget all the tit for tat. But what the thing that sticks out of my mind more than any, is how Lewis conducted himself on that podium after just being robbed of your 8th World Championship. He was so magnanimous in defeat. And Max Verstappen, the week before in Saudi Arabia, walked off the podium because he was in a strop. I mean, just unbelievable. So what would Max have done? What would Red Bull have done?
No, you're firing up the Max video. You're firing them up again.
No,
I agree. I
think Max deserved to win overall in the season, but he wasn't going to win. Lewis Hamilton was.
Well, it was a shame. I mean, to me, it came down the once amazing winner takes all final race. And this whole business, we want to race. We'd had a race. We'd had a Grand Prix. We'd have 56 or I don't know how many laps we'd had. We'd had an hour and a half of a Grand Prix. Grand Prix are won over strategy. And Lewis had driven a brilliant race. There was some controversy on the first lap with the overtaking, which again, Martin Brundle said was a perfectly good overtake, but I still disagree with that. Anyway, we'd had a motor race. A motor race isn't one lap around a banger stadium. But the saddest thing is, because the FIA have taken so long and haven't satisfied the fans, we've got this new season started. We've got the launches of the new cars,
which is so exciting.
Really, which should be so exciting. But this new audio was released on the morning of the Red Bull's launch. I don't know who orchestrated such a social media campaign, but it seemed an amazing coincidence that the new weekly conversation came out. And I think the cars look great. And the wing is still a bit I don't like. I think it's too wide. I don't like the fact that the fins are still going to be knocking them off at the first corner. But great colour schemes. The Aston Martin looked fabulous. And I thought the McLaren in that sort of blue and orange. So, I'm trying to get excited about the new season. But we've still got this sour taste because they haven't concluded. And they won't conclude it until 2 days before the race.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I know Lewis has had, and I saw some tweets yesterday, Nick Knowles, quite a well-known guy in the UK, he tweets about it, and there's been Lewis had years of abuse, and I didn't realize how bad it was. Actually, I saw some of the tweets yesterday, but this is not about racism. So lots of people are jumping on and saying this is about racism. This is not about racism. This is a bad decision. However, Lewis Hamilton fans feel like they got a bit of a moral victory because they had void lap 58, the hashtag. They had that trending on Twitter yesterday. So they're still talking about it. It's still there, and it's not going to go away. And they're all saying they're going to boycott F1. No chance. They're not, because they're drivers there, and we're all excited to see it, whatever happens. And it does make for entertainment, but that sadly is what it ended up being, and what Michael Masi did made it more entertaining than over ethics of the motor race. Shame.
Bit of a shame, big scar. Embarrassment for my sport. But then we had racing last weekend. At least there's some racing still going on. We had the FEs made their Formula E, had their Mexico race. I actually found it quite entertaining. I mean, I'm there. See, I'm always looking at it, Formula E people. I don't like the awful sound, the whining sound that doesn't excite me at all. And of course, the race is exciting because they're all running to the same energy saving, lifting off halfway down the straights. But there's a lot of tactical stuff. I'm enjoying the qualifying, which I think has been a really good breakthrough. So we had the Porsches look good this weekend. But in the races, it's still this energy conservation goes on. And it seems to be the team that's got the strategy right, all of a sudden wins by miles. The two Porsches cruised around at the front for their first ever win. Whereas Mercedes did this in the first round in Diriyah. We've now got someone else got the sums right. And it's this computer getting your energy consumption correct. Because in the results, it's always the two cars of the same team, always in the same place in the field. They're very much moving up and down. But I thought it was quite funny. It was a bit of embarrassment at the end because the Porsche, the managers had made their energy plan for 40 laps. Because the regulation is 45 minutes plus 1 lap. So that's the energy saving they have to plan for. And it was quite funny in a way that because they'd made that plan, even though they'd had about a 10-second lead, the two of them cruising, they were still determined to make it a 40-lap race. They made them go fast enough so they crossed the line about 2 seconds before the 45 minutes were up, meaning that it would be 40 laps, which is what their strategy was planning for. When half the field had obviously planned for a 39-lap race because they all suddenly, the Jaguars and all sorts suddenly ran out of power completely because, just because Porsche got across the line 2 seconds before the 45 minutes are up. So and the overtakes happen. Some of the cars pushed forward early on, the Porsches dropped back, both of them, and some of the overtakes, because if a guy doesn't lift on the straight, the one that's got a bit of energy just cruises by. I said, I don't know what the drivers feel like. And someone pointed out, well, that's the same as DRS, which is the same feeling for a driver when you get overtaken with a DRS car. You can't do anything about it, and which is why I don't like DRS. So the fact that DRS does it in Formula One doesn't justify the overtaking in E when the battery runs out. But so it's good. Funny, congratulations to Verline and Lotterer for first and second of the Porsches.
But also people were comparing the energy saving with fuel saving, and it's completely different. The difference is you have to energy save because you can't go full power with this. No. But fuel saving, you can fill it up as much as you want. That's more tactics to keep the weight as low as possible.
Well, the engineers will start you on a low, and if you then try hard for an hour and a quarter, then hold on a minute, we didn't put that much fuel on board. So that is, as you just said, a strategy choice, but it's not quite the same as 40% of your power you have to put back in, and they lift halfway down the straight. They're lifting.
Nah, it's not right. That's not racing, but it is exciting, and I like it. I like Nicky Shields as a commentator and stuff. But it's a little bit disappointing, and I wonder where it's going because it hasn't maybe taken off as well as maybe they thought. Because Channel 4 got the UK rights for it, yet it's only showed on YouTube.
Only on YouTube.
It's a real shame. It's
kick in the teeth.
It is a bit, isn't it? Because
the Mexicans loved it anyway. The Mexicans love anything. It was the crowd. They always have the fabulous crowd there. As the commentators were saying, the drivers could hear them cheering in that amazing little stadium they have when they whittled through the film. So it was it was a proper racetrack. Only half a proper racetrack, admittedly, but it was a proper wide racing circuit. So it wasn't these little tiny little artificial car park courses. So it looks better like that. So I was entertained by Formula E this weekend.
And do you know what? You just mentioned DRS. I don't mind a bit of DRS. I think I don't mind it. It's because it's the same for everybody, isn't it? It's the same for everybody. It's not.
Well, it's not the same if you haven't got it. The other bloke's got it, and he drives by you. It's not. It's not. That's the whole point. It's not.
What do you guys think about DRS? Get in the comments
It's got
below on
to
YouTube.
go. They will all say it's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. And it so annoys me. The new cars have got it still, and they're gonna wait and see if their regulations make the cars follow closer. But the point is, if we've got DRS this year and the cars can follow closer, they're going to be overtaken everywhere because, as we saw with the wonderful Max versus Lewis battles, it was getting into that 1 second. We're all looking at the clock, aren't we? Until is he 1 second behind into the DRS zone so he can get the DRS. But whereas you can catch up from the 2 seconds at one, then you then get stuck in the dirty air. But if these new cars can stay within half a second, they're going to be getting DRS all over the place. So
isn't it going to be more overtaking? Is it going to be more exciting?
They say they'll take it away if it becomes, too everywhere. They are saying if the cars can race without it, they are saying they will try to remove DRS.
Okay.
I have my doubt. Once Liberty sees 100 overtakes in every Grand Prix, they'll say, "Oh, I love that, great." But,
yeah, and then lots of crashes, lots of safety cars, lots of Michael Masi action. Liberty are going to be punching the ceiling. They're going to be ecstatic about that.
I just retweeted a lovely. Did you see that clip I retweeted? Nelson Piquet overtaking Minardi at Silverstone. The driver control and the wonderful old fast corners around Silverstone. He went through Stowe and Club and Abbey and right in the slipstream. But it was wonderful to watch a proper overtake where there was slipstream and nothing else.
Do you know, Tiff, I still think that we've got that, but these big modern cars, they're so big that it just hide it so well. I know, the cars that you're talking about there with PK, probably almost half the size. And of course, the driver's doing everything as well. But it's just a shame that modern cars in general, they just make everybody soft and it just does look so easy, but it's a bit harder than that. We'll find out.
No joy for the Brits. Just finishing my Formula E report. We had a terrible time because the Jaguars were one of the ones that ran out of power. Jake Dennis was our best in 10th place. So it wasn't a good weekend for the Brits in Formula E, but never mind. Porsche, they've had their day. Okay. Who gets the strategy right next? We wait with the bated breath.
It shouldn't be about just strategy. Strategy is important, as we know, but typically it shouldn't be about strategy for a race. It's an important part of it, but not the defining factor. It shouldn't be in a race, in my opinion. So in the Middle East, you still have the
lots of winter series. They were joined this year. The little single-seater children, as I call them, as you kick me off for, the young talent of the future, were joined by the Asian Le Mans series, the LMS series, which it was very much an amateur field. It's more of an A. It's not really the World Series. There were only 4 LMP2 cars, no prototypes, no LMP1s. It was mainly sort of 9 LMP3s and loads of GT cars. And it's how will these teams get the budget to do these races? I have no idea. There were 2 4-hour races out in Dubai on the list. And the Brits had a wonderful time. The 2 wins overall with the crew, including Matt Bell and Ben Hanley. Well done, Matt and Ben. Had a win in the LMP3 with Nick Adcock won one race, then Tony Wells and Colin Noble another, more Union flags. And the GTs was won by the McLaren of Ollie Milroy and Ben Barnicoat in one race and second the other. So Brits looking good. We always look good in sports cars, don't we? Those, we're always got, like we did the Daytona 24-hour race, and the top 4 cars all have British drivers in. And it is one place I'm very proud that we've these single-seater drivers that don't make Formula One, they get these careers in doing GT racing. We didn't have so much luck in the single-seaters, though, because our only real title hopeful was Aidan Neate in the Formula 4 UAE. But he had a bad weekend, some best result of 5th. He's dropped to 2nd in the championship now. But a new Brazilian kid. This is what you have to look at these races, the names of the future. He's a Ferrari junior. Rafael Camara won 3 of the races. And Charlie Wirtz, son of Alex Wirtz, had a win. Formula Regional was wins again for Arthur Leclerc, the brother of. He's extending his championship lead in that. Wins for Sebastian Montoya and the Swede Dino Beganovic. Ollie Behrman, this talent that I thought was going to win the Autosport Awards, but he didn't. He got beaten away. He had his debut. He's just joined this lot. He had 1 third place out of the 3 races. So, not so much British success in the single-seaters, but loads in sports car racing. Good
stuff. So, what else going on? Oh, I need to ask.
And they got one more weekend this weekend. They all come out to the last rounds. So this weekend sees the final rounds. They've gone back to Yas Marina for this coming weekend after 3 weekends in Dubai.
So next weekend,
someone I
know off to Daytona. Who's that?
Assume I pass my COVID test tomorrow morning. I've been hiding for a week. It's American rules. You have to take this witness Zoom meeting COVID test. And if you fail it, you don't go. So I've been hiding. I'm feeling healthy. I've taken a test every day and I'm passing them. Yeah, Daytona for the 500 and just a fantastic event. I'm out, as I said, with this Motor Passion, this little corporate group entertaining their guests.
So if you're not lucky enough to go and watch it, where can you watch it in the UK? Where can we catch up with it?
It's on one of the three. I've got all the BT Sport. It's on Sky, isn't it? NASCAR now, or is it on BT Sport?
Probably BT Sport.
Or is it on the third one? What's the other one I've got?
Eurosport.
I think it's a BT Sport.
Anyway, we'll find out.
Find that out. Yeah, go Google. But it's a wonderful race. I mean, it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's just one of the crown jewels of the motorsport. We've got Daytona 500, Indy 500, Monaco Grand Prix, British Grand Prix. Well, that's for the Brits, that is. But one of the iconic races.
Fantastic.
New cars as well. Central lock wheels all change.
What's to look out for? The central lock wheels. Anything else that we should be? Who should be looking out for in terms of drivers?
Pump action. Well, obviously Larson, car Larson, the number 5. But as we got this interest with Napa coming to the British Touring Car Championship, the Brits ought to support the number 9, Chase Elliott, in the Napa car. So, but it's colourful. There'll be jets flying over. There'll be Union flags. They'll sing the anthem, Standing with Pride. And when those cars come round on the warming up lap, I'll be standing in the seats with hair on the back of my neck rising up. The atmosphere they can build in America is awesome. And rumbling V8, 40 rumbling V8s. Then they build up the speed down the back straight. And when they come around at the end of the first lap, you can't help but be amazed. There's a lot of boring stuff in the middle. It is a sort of racing that goes on, and there's sections of the race where they all stay in single file and nothing happens. But then towards the end, when the tension rises and they all start going wild in the pack to try and move forwards, because they're all full throttle the whole time, but using side draft and tail draft, and it's a spectacle. It's entertaining motor racing. So what we all want, really.
Have a few light beers, burgers, and buffalo wings.
Plenty.
For me.
A walk down the beach where Malcolm Campbell did, I don't know, about 300 miles an hour for the last speed record. I was amazed when I go there. It was quite a narrow beach when you were there. You could drive down it now, all the cars from the front and surfers coming in. But to think of a Malcolm Campbell do about 300 miles an hour down a narrow strip of sand. So, but sand, of course, is where the other racing event is, because the beach buggies are back.
Extreme E. They're not beach buggies, they're Extreme E. It's a very highly sophisticated racing series. But
I tried to do some research, right? Go on their website. You go Extreme E. It's the most befuddling website. And all I wanted to do was get the entry list for this weekend. Because I heard that the Rosberg team that won everything have dropped Molly Taylor, the Australian rally champion, who won it with them. It seems to be dropped, and she made a very sort of discreet comment of nothing. And they've stolen Jensen Button's lady driver, who, pronunciation, apologies, Michaela alias Kotelinski. There was a Freddie Kotelinski, the race Formula 3 in the 1960s I used to watch. She must be related there somewhere. So they brought in Kotelinski. They got 2 Swedes driving for them. But the Button team doesn't seem to be running, from what I've heard. But
I heard a little rumour they might be dropping out, but I don't know. That's just a rumour.
McLaren are coming in. They've got the picture of the McLaren car on the website, but I don't think they're running till the next series. That's confusing. There's just not an entry list. Jamie Chadwick, I think, isn't running anymore. But I couldn't find out anything about it, apart from they will be bouncing around in the dunes. I don't know what they've done about this track. When they're going to spray the whole desert, because they had that problem. It's the same with the Saudi, where they couldn't see if they were second in the first corner. But I don't know what channel that's on either. Go search. Don't go to their website to find out, because they won't tell you. It's useless. But so we've got Katie Manning. We've only got 2 Brits. So we've got Katie Manning still running, and the other Brit is Oliver Bennett. So we've got 2 Brits in it now.
I just don't think that excitement is there, like the Formula E. I just don't. I hate to say it, but I just don't think it's there. And I think that
it's all the artificial drama, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all.
I can't stand all that.
Mission zone in the dark. You're in the desert where it's all sunshine. They've got this mission control tent, and everybody's watching their screens, and boom, 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 the bill. The commentary that's just wall to wall from one to the other, bashing into my ears the whole time.
You got
they're coming for a pit change. they've got to change seats. They've got to undo that. They're undoing their seat. I can see they're undoing their seat belts. And she's got out of the car and he's getting in and he's putting the belts on. I can see they're putting I don't need the commentary about the race. This is a very critical part of the race. It's not a critical part of the race. It's got loads of time for it all. Commentators, when I commented with Murray Walker, I still remember when the producer shouted in my ears, let the pictures do the talking. And it seems to be lost, that fact. You seem to be told as a commentator now to wall it with as much shouting and enthusiasm, even if it's as boring as can be.
I like them and I like the enthusiasm. Let it continue. Long may the enthusiasm continue. And on that note, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Don't forget, get it
yeah. Next week, you'll be seeing me on a shaky iPhone from Daytona Beach, baby, with a bit of a suntan, more like a sunburn, I expect.
We might trade you in for Ben Collins next week. Cheers, guys.
What?